Okay, so let's start.
Sure.
Hi to all the audience of Hack by Security. Here we are with Kevin Mitnick, also known with other nicknames as the Condor or the Ghost in the Wires, as the title of one of his book claims, where he speaks about his adventures as the world's most wanted hacker. Nowadays, he's a successful cybersecurity consultant in companies that helps others to review their security flaws and protect themselves against cyber attacks. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for your time.
Hi. How are you, Tony?
Very well, thank you.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much for your time. And I'm really interested in having this conversation with you because when you start at your age, just experimenting with phones and connections and let's say flirting with the emerging technologies, things were very different in the past comparing right now. Even regulation laws seems to try to adapt the fast-changing world of technology and still trying. As a lot of people of your generation, you face all the changes in computer, phones, data, services. It will be retrieving if you can give us your point of view about those changes to this very day, and especially in cybersecurity, please, Kevin.
Yeah, well, wow. I mean, in my lifetime, it's been a tremendous amount of change. When I first got involved with hacking, which is really about phone freaking for me, and I started this in 1978, so it's been quite a number of years. The technology that existed at that time was like electromechanical switching at the phone companies. They were just moving to electronic switching systems. So even the phone systems in Bell were very archaic. This was back in the days that you could blue box and send multi-frequency tones down a trunk and gain access to certain services of the phone company, if you will. But back then, everything was large time-sharing systems and everything. My first computer was really not a computer; it was a terminal. It was like a VT100 terminal, and I'd use that to access. Just with a modem and a terminal, I was able to get into a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And today, you see, 4 and 5-year-olds with iPhones and with Android, and I'm going, man, I wish I could, go back in time and take these devices because I'd have so much more capability. But the advancements of technology is incredible. Back in the day with hacking, it was systems were much less secured, obviously, and it was much easier and to compromise these systems, if you will, depending on who the target was. But back in the day, the difference was it was much easier to exploit people. It was much easier to exploit technology. And then if we fast forward, but we didn't have any frameworks. You didn't have Metasploit, Canvas, and all these exploitation frameworks that you could either purchase or download for free. And you might, in my case, I had a few friends where we shared similar interests that we'd work together and develop our own tools. Nowadays, anyone could download the tools and download the frameworks necessary and compromise targets, which didn't exist back in my day. However, the dynamic of that is the systems today are much better at security than they were back in the 1980s. So that's kind of a change. I mean, less tooling back then, a great amount of tooling today, less security back then, much more security today.
Yeah, that leads us to the next question, because it's interesting knowing your point of view about the past, but the near future in cybersecurity. It will be really insightful. What the topic sparks your interest the most right now? Because as you said, everyone can access right now. Everyone can start to learn how to do those things. So the companies, I think that they need to be more aware of all of that. And what is the topic that sparked you the most, the interest?
Anything technical and anything like people oriented. I'm not really focused on like policies, procedures, guidelines, and standards and the administrative side of security. That to me is critically important, but boring type of work. So I still love the excitement of hacking, and I still hack today. keep it a secret. No, just kidding. But I do it with permission. So I run a company. I have my company, Mitnick Security Consulting. I, employ, over a dozen people, and and we have these pen testing engagements and these red teaming engagements, and I get my hands dirty, even though I own the company. Sorry about that. Even though I own the company, I still get involved in a lot of the post-exploitation type of stuff. So once my team gets like a remote code execution vulnerability, like they're a web app, and we get a shell, and then I'll go in and focus more on the internal side, because I like moving internally and pivoting internally and getting to the tasty data, if you will. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of our red teaming engagements, our clients give us permission to go after and capture certain flags. So I like the challenge, and I get my hands dirty today and still work in that area, even though I run the company from a management perspective. So I like all things security, especially with mobility, obviously mobile phones. Obviously, I started in the phone freaking era. So when you combine, computers with phones, it's of great interest to me. And keeping my ear close to the ground. I mean, this field is every day there's something new that's published, like for example, by some researcher on Twitter, and then I'm just reading and reading and reading and reading, and it's almost like a full-time job to keep up with all the information that's out there, with all the new, like for example, they just had Echo Party in the virtual conference, and I didn't get to attend, but I'm sure there's going to be lots of information and videos from that event that happened last week. So I already feel like I'm behind, because I want to, again, watch a lot of the presentations and learn a lot of the new techniques in tradecraft.
Yeah. So as you said, in the early days, you had less technology, and the challenge is growing and growing, and you always need to be learning all the time. So
it's almost like I'm always a student.
Yes.
You can't know everything, right? And there's always some smart person that comes along with some new research and new methodologies, and then I want to learn that. So I'm like a full-time owner of the company and a full-time student.
Yeah, that's good, and that's why you have a company, because you have around you other people that knows a lot of things as well, and you're a team.
Yeah, exactly. Like I try to hire people that are smarter than me. That way I learn from them.
Good. Well, and right now we assume that you keep the pace of this field, and you need to keep being very innovative, as you said. And is there any particular project that you are working on? Maybe something with
besides running my pen testing company, I'm a part owner and the chief hacking officer of a very successful company called KnowBe4. And KnowBe4, we focus on new school security awareness training, because I've learned since the 1970s until, and as we sit here and talk today, the easiest way to get into a company is through social engineering, whether that's a phishing attack, whether it's a pretext call, whether it's convincing somebody to let you in the building, whatever way you use, it's the easier way in. Yes. So KnowBe4 is a company that trains people, and we have a simulated phishing platform. And we started the company like 10 years ago, and today we're over 1,000 employees. So, so it's like, I really like to focus in this area and to offer my expertise and insight to help our clients better train their people and make them aware of all the new threats out there. And all the threats are changing every day. So it's quite a time-consuming job.
Yes, I will definitely have a look on that. Which concerns you the most? The use of this information of big corporations, or the lack of knowledge about data security of common users? Maybe both.
I think both, because the lack of security by common users are the employees at these companies. So the companies don't have the proper security controls from a technical perspective. They're probably going to, be compromised sometime in the future. But you also have to think of their first line of defense as their people. So, if their people aren't trained, that's going to be another way in, because, as a threat actor, you look for the weakest link in the security chain, whatever is the easiest way in and the least likely to be detected is the way, we do as, security assessors, and also the bad guys do it the same method. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And as you said, well, you're famous for your knowledge in social engineering and all that, and your early days work on that. So yeah, what you said is really important. I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of anecdotes from clients, or no need to naming names, but if you know one of those, I mean, those, it will be fun to learn from that. This as you said, this difference of knowledge, of this lack of knowledge because it's really new all for the people, all that of cybersecurity. Maybe there's an anecdote from clients or from other people around you that you can give to us.
Sure. Well, I just recently worked on an engagement, and it was quite fun because it was like almost like Ocean's 11, and this is where we were able to compromise this very large company that's a public company, very well known, and we're able. And this company's in the retail business, so they sell things, and so this company is pretty much in every mall, probably even in a mall in Madrid. That's how big they are. So the team, we had plenty of options to go after certain attack vectors, but what was also included was also physical and wireless. So we were able to gain. They had several access points at the retail store. One for point of sale, one for guests, like people that come into the store, and then one for employees. We were able to get into one of those. We were able to use typical easy tradecraft to get the PSK, the pre-shared key, to one of these access points. And then from that network, because they didn't have it segmented properly, we were able to get to eventually to their AWS cloud, and it was we had to jump through different networks, but it was all connected to the wireless at the storefront. So the problem is we couldn't sit there in a mall all day, right? Because it'd be suspicious. We'd have to be close to the store with a laptop, even with a directional antenna. When you're in a mall, you can't sit in an inside mall with a computer and a directional antenna that's big, because obviously you're going to be noticed. And especially if you're sitting there 8 hours a day. So what we did is we weaponized. We took a Raspberry Pi, and we we set up an open VPN connection to it. We found in the right near the store was these tables where people could drink coffee, and they actually had plugs where people could plug in and charge their phones. So what we were able to do is take this Raspberry Pi and hide it under the table with Velcro, plug it in power. We set up an open VPN connection to one of our C2 systems in Azure, and then we were able to access the wireless network of the target from the comfort of our homes or offices. So we're able to hack, through the Raspberry Pi, which is connected wirelessly to the victim, and sit there remotely from anywhere in the world. And they never, of course, the mall security nor the client ever saw it. Of course, we revealed it in the report, but it was very cool, because here we are, leveraging this mall to get access to the client.
It sounds like a James Bond thing.
Yeah. So the client was like, it was very cool when we presented the report, because we had pictures of, hiding it. Oh, and what the problem was is every weekend, the mall would shut down and cut power.
Yes.
So our Raspberry Pi would go offline, and we'd have to wait Monday for it to come back online. And on one occasion, when you do a cold power off, and you reboot the device, it actually corrupted the SD card. So we had to go there on one occasion and replace the SD card in the Pi. But yeah, so that was pretty fun.
It's amazing that the cleaning people didn't notice or remove it. I thought that they didn't know what it is, and they didn't put things that they didn't know. I don't know.
Well, my main worry is if the mall security found it, they might think it's like a dangerous device.
Wow. Yes.
So I was really worried that they never caught it, but I was really worried if they did catch it, they might not realize it's just a hacking device. It's not it's not something that's going to hurt anybody.
Yeah, it's not a bomb or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That was really good one. For our most techie audience, besides the social engineering, and which technique do you like to use in the pen testing process when you have discovered the security hole?
Well, for apps, we love using Burp Proxy Pro, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much what we do. My favorite technique, it really depends on what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite thing to do is just install implants on the target network and pretty much be invisible.
Yes.
And do it in such a way it's very unlikely for my client to detect the implants, and bypassing the EDRs. So what I do is I like the challenge of taking our implants that we're using and working a way around the EDR, whether that's something like Sophos or CrowdStrike Falcon or whatever EDRs. Some EDRs are much harder to bypass than others. So I always enjoy that challenge.
Yeah, that's why they call you the ghost in the wires, because it's like you are the invisible man. It's like you are the invisible man or something like that. You feel like that, the emotion, the adrenaline of being there and passing all these barriers and all these doors. It's really interesting, really good.
Yeah. Usually I have my team. I have a team of security engineers. And once they get the initial foothold on the network, and they tell me about it, then I go on and hide the implants and pivot and get access to the important data. I leave it up to my team to get the initial foothold, whether that's through exploiting a web app bug, a phishing attack, finding misconfigured network service, whatever it is. Another funny story is I had a client, and this client was a farming client. So there was agriculture. So they're in the middle of nowhere, United States. And you would think that they wouldn't have state-of-the-art technology because they're in agriculture. So the only thing in scope on this pen test was the firewall. And they used a next-gen, like a Palo Alto firewall. So it was and you're thinking, wow, the farming community has some money to spend on new technology, and that was the only thing in scope. So I didn't think we would get in at all, because to exploit a new gen firewall was going to take a lot of time, and we only had 2 weeks of time on this test, so it was very limited. So this one was all up to date with the latest firmware, everything. So I'm going, oh my God, this is going to be a real tough one. But what was also included that we could use is OSINT, and if we figure out anything from an OSINT perspective, open source intelligence perspective, we could leverage that in getting in. But it was mainly a network test, a network pen test against a next gen firewall. So I'm thinking there's no way in hell we're going to be able to accomplish this, but hell, we're going to give it a try. So, so I have part of the team, banging on the firewall, trying to see, we're obviously trying to get, a VM with the appliance running and that sort of thing, so we could kind of, reverse engineer some of the techniques that we could potentially use. And I don't recall, now come to think about it, I'm not sure if it was Palo Alto or another one. Okay, it's kind of blending together. But let me get to the crux of the story. So since we're allowed to use open source intelligence, and this never worked before, and I didn't think it had any chance of working at all, but I figured I'd give it a shot, is I went over to the site called WeLeak.info, and WeLeak.info was taken down by the feds. But it was basically a bunch of aggregated data leaks. What I did is I searched on the domain of my client and found that they had, 5 employees had leaked credentials from years ago. And the database it found it in was the LinkedIn database. And that was leaked in 2011.
Wow.
So you're talking like something like 7 years ago, 8 years ago from when I did this test. I'm going, okay, there's 5 credentials. And they had a internet-facing Exchange server. So I figured, I might as well give it a shot. I have nothing to lose. So there's 5 credentials. So I tried the first one, no luck. Second one, no luck. Third one, no luck. Fourth one, no luck. Fifth one, I'm in. I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, I had to like pinch myself to see that I'm in this email of this woman who handled customer service stuff with the company. And I was thinking, okay, well, I can't really do much from it because I'm not allowed to use phishing because no social engineering. It was just a network test.
Yes.
So I started looking through her email for the typical type of stuff we always look like for credentials, passwords, yada, yada, yada. And I found that this lady managed, they used a third-party website provider for the business, and this lady had credentials for this. It's a company it's a company where several companies register for this service, and so you're siloed into your own different account, right? So I logged into this lady's account, and she had administrative privileges, not for the entire site because it belonged to a different company, but for the company I was testing.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. So I went over to the user section where you list all the users, and you could see, the time they created the account, the username, the password was asterisked out, yada, yada, yada. But it was like a list of like 50 users. I go, you got to be kidding. And I noticed that the guy that hired me, his name was in there. So I couldn't do this, dude. I just viewed source of the webpage, and you could see the credentials in plain text for all the users for this website.
Amazing.
So of course, the guy that hired me was a domain admin, DA, and I just tried his credential on using the VPN, the firewall and scope. They obviously expose VPN, and it worked, man. So I actually was able to VPN in to the company because of this this really crappy third-party website the company used. Some vendor was able to VPN in, and of course the guy had domain admin rights, so I was able just to figure out where the domain controller was and RDP to the domain controller, and it was game over. And this was all from a data breach. And
Yes.
the first time in history that technique worked for me. I couldn't believe it. I mean, like I just was shocked, but it led to a full and complete breach. And then when I was pivoting in their internal network, they used CrowdStrike Falcon. Yeah, now it's fun, right? Because we have our foothold. We could VPN in as a DA. We didn't have to bother escalating privileges to a DA because we got them initially, because the guy reused his password on that other site. That's why. And then we're able to deploy our implants on everything, essentially. Eventually, CrowdStrike Falcon detected it.
Wow.
Because unfortunately, because when you have a piece of code running and you inject it into a different process, and that process doesn't normally connect out to the internet, for example, Falcon over time, it's not immediate. Maybe it was over like a few days, realizes, using their, ML machine learning algorithms, that this is strange. It sent a low level alert, not a medium or a high, just a low level, that this is a strange process. So then my client called me and goes, is this us? And of course I said, yeah, that's us. So, yeah.
one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
It's
So-
inspiring, and that's the next point. You are an inspiration. You wrote some books. You are part of the history of cybersecurity. And is there someone that inspires you? Any advice for these new students and professionals on cybersecurity and ethical hacking field? Besides,
I mean, there's in the security field, there's a lot of people that inspire me. I mean, I always look up to people like Chema Alonso,
Mhm.
Benjamin Delpy, the guy that that wrote Mimi Cats. Other the guy that works on. I'm trying to remember his name with PowerShell. God, I can't remember the guy's name. I'm sorry. Off the top of my head. I mean, there's several security researchers and that I look up to for their knowledge and expertise.
Good. And
His name is Jeffrey Snover. That's right.
Jeffrey.
My girlfriend reminded me.
So,
like Mark Rasanovich, look up to him. I mean, he developed the syskernel suite that was acquired by Microsoft. There's lots of people I look up to, in this field because, again, there's a lot of brilliant minds.
Mm-hmm. And any advice for these new students on this field?
Yeah, I mean, when I try to hire people, with this expertise, I always look to people that have a good foundation in system and network administration and also development, because a lot of our clients have internet-facing web apps. So just having knowledge from a security perspective is good, but I always like hiring people that have development experience as well, because then they know how the developer thinks and how they're writing their application. And the whole point of this is to find, flaws in the application and to think like a developer thinks. So you have that mindset. So if you could put yourself into that mindset of a developer and then have the security experience on top of it, you're a much better tester. So that's why I always recommend to people that are getting into this field that they learn the fundamentals and then build their security expertise on top of it.
Really good one. Yeah, I agree with that. And any source of information that you recommend, you tell us about Twitter, any blog, podcast, website, or something like that?
Because I follow a lot of Twitter people. I mean, that's how I kind of keep up to date on something new that's going on. Of course, I follow Benjamin Delpy. I follow a guy named Dirk Jan. I think he works for Fox IT out of the Netherlands. He just wrote the code to exploit the zero login vulnerability, where you could basically, it was a different company, and I forgot the guy. I think he's out of the Netherlands too, and the name escapes me. But he identified a vulnerability in net login, and basically you could privilege. You could simply compromise a domain controller through this vulnerability, and then Dirk Jan weaponized it. And there's a white paper on it. If you're interested, you could just Google for it. But I'm trying to think on the top of my head. The company that this guy was working for, I think, began with the letter S, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
No problem.
Sucuna, I think, Sucuna or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. We will research that. And let's change the rules a little bit here, and let's do our rapid fire questions just to change the mood a little bit. And something new that you learned in the past week.
Something new I learned in the past week.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking. This all had to do with the zero login vulnerability. It was kind of like in the past 2 weeks. I mean, it's pretty recent. It came out. I've been working on learning more about Kubernetes in escaping the containers. So I've been doing some research and reading a lot of documents on that. Unfortunately, pretty much everything is patched, because I had one client that we'd be stuck in a container and it wouldn't be running as root. So then we have to figure out how do we escalate root and break out of the container and talk to the host. And there's different types of techniques that were used 3, 4, 5 months ago. But when you have these services running in the cloud and it spins up a new container that's a fully patched container.
Yeah.
So unless you have a 0-day or a misconfiguration, you're not going to.
Do you get a lot of attacks attempts in your company or to yourself?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Really?
I mean, myself. Originally, we had my website, which is not connected to the company's internal network, but is outside. We had it hosted by a company for years and years and years, and it would get DDoS attacks and nothing like remote code execution, mostly DDoS type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And so then I just recently, about 6 months to a year ago, moved it into HubSpot. Mm-hmm. So I just let HubSpot manage the whole thing, and it's no headache. And I run everything through Cloudflare, and pretty much I don't have any DDoS attacks anymore.
Good. Really
that's dynamic to exploit on my site. I mean, we have a contact form, but it's not running in my in the context of Mitnick security. It's running in HubSpot. So if they want to hack HubSpot, go for it.
It's not a way to get hired by you, no?
yeah. It's just like it's almost like you're not hacking when you're hacking my company website. It's almost like you're not hacking my company because it's run in HubSpot.
Yeah, better to send a CV. It's the best way.
Yeah. So basically, no more headaches. Okay. I just transfer the headache to a different company.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. How's your day off? Any hobbies? I don't know.
Yeah, I have a hobby, hacking.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, my girlfriend and I recently bought some e-bikes. So now we're starting to do some bike riding, getting some exercise after sitting in front of the computer for 20 hours a day.
Wow, yeah.
I recently bought this 35-foot motorhome and I'm going to take it out tomorrow. And the reason we bought this motorhome was because of COVID-19. We wanted a way we could travel safely without, contracting the virus.
Yeah, for sure. And TV show? There's now a lot of TV shows, maybe one related with cybersecurity or not.
Favorite TV shows? Well, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. Yeah. Trying to think of any others that I really like. I'd say those are the top two. Movies like Mission Impossible, Enemy of the State. Those, I like the action type of movies.
Good.
Action thriller.
Me too.
And of course, Sneakers, right? Because I think the best hacking movie that has been released to date is Sneakers.
Sneakers, I will take a look at.
Yeah. Back in the 80s, but it's the more realistic one, and it has the people that's the actors in the film are the top-notch A-class celebrities.
Good. Favorite phone non-business app? Which one?
Which one? What'd you say? I'm sorry?
Favorite phone non-business app?
No. See, I don't reveal these details. Yeah. What's your favorite password? What's your favorite password manager?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, I guess the most used app on my phone is Twitter.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Favorite.
If you got an RCE in Twitter, well, you still need my phone number.
Yeah, no. Favorite distro and browser?
Browser, Chrome, Brave. Distro, I like Ubuntu. Favorite, Windows or Mac. I usually Red Hat or Ubuntu. I prefer from a Linux distro perspective. Okay,
that's good. And finally, let's change it again. Okay, I started to learn your book, and it was really amazing. And I feel I really say that with my hand in the heart. I really feel really connected with your story and all that. This book of The Ghost in the Wires. And at the end, you explain there the emotion or all the story from your perspective, when your situation in the past, and answering is up to you. But obviously, reading about the days when you were being person. It seems to there's some mystery in your last moves, and it's if you already knew they are following you and all that. We want to know. It was how high was the condor flying over, or one step ahead, and any words on that? Or maybe revising through the things are coming through you to you.
You're talking about the book Ghost and the Wires.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if I knew, when I was that the government was, close to me in Raleigh, North Carolina, I would have attempted to escape, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But it was kind of caught by surprise. I didn't realize how close they were. What I underestimated at the time is how fast. Usually the government in the United States works very slow.
Yeah.
And I was, and because of Timora,
okay,
bothering them, to go faster, and that's it caught me off guard.
Yeah, good. Well, and that's anyway. Those were days. Those days are gone, and those things belong to the past. And it's really interesting at the same time because you give a really human, well, obviously a human perspective and your point of view, and I like that because as we said at the beginning of the interview, always very new. There are no rules at the beginning, so and your wise words and about what's going on cybersecurity, and I can thank you enough for that for this time with you. And is there anything else that you want to add to finish this this conversation? And again, thank you one more time.
Yeah, I mean, for the people that are listening that aren't in cybersecurity yet, I think it's a fantastic field to get into. It's very challenging. It's not boring. It's like solving a puzzle every day, every new client that we have. And we work from an offensive perspective. So whether you want to be blue team or red team, the challenges change every day. And, at least from an offensive perspective, it's always trying to solve that puzzle, trying to figure a way around a security control. As a threat hunter, you're trying to, set up an alert to catch the bad guy. So it's actually, it's almost like it's not work. It's almost like playing a game. Yeah. And the game is either to be really good in offensive or really good in defense, offensive or defensive, whatever side you're on. And I highly recommend that people, explore the area of cybersecurity, because I think, again, it's very rewarding and you could make a decent living.
Yes. Thank you for honoring us with your time and patience. And Kevin.
All right. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.